This week's episode was absolutely incredible. And when I say incredible, I'm bringing on two very special guests this week. And they're from an Instagram account that's extremely highly favored, well known, and it's 30AF. I originally asked Chloe and Peter, what does 30AF stand for? And because we're clean on this show, we're going to say 30 always and forever. Peter and Chloe are joining us today. We're going to bring it back to their favorite movies, their favorite television shows, to their favorite computer games, and so much more. You guys are in for a real treat. Stay tuned and enjoy the show. Please welcome 30AF. Woo!
Hey!
So Chloe and Peter, how's it going today?
Doing well. Thank you so much for having us.
It is an absolute pleasure having you guys. You're kind of one in a million, especially for this show, because I haven't had people who create such interesting and funny memes and such. And like we were talking about earlier, stories. Let's go ahead and take it back to 4 years ago. Let's take it back to day one. What was the idea behind this Instagram or channel?
God, I think we had a lot of ideas just for our own thing and never really meant to take this as like a bigger thing beyond just our little friend group. Would you say that, Chloe?
100%. It was like basically an inside joke, right? Like
Wow.
Totally.
Sharing memes and having fun with it.
And we had like a few Facebook chat groups with other friends, like one friend in particular who had a bunch of good memes. And I think this was kind of an extension of that. And it started small. Like, I think it took us a really long time to even get 1,000 followers. And that really was not the goal in the beginning. It was just kind of a fun thing we were doing. But we really did pay attention to what people were liking and reading comments and engaging with people. And through that, we kind of connected with the nostalgia element. We definitely do a lot of the nostalgia. We also do a lot of the like embrace your inner 30-year-old train wreck elements and the self-deprecating, I'm never going to own a home kind of millennial thing.
Yeah, for sure. So when it comes down to, this idea, you guys had just, it's kind of a joke, kind of just something for fun. But, what made you guys actually want to, kind of focus in on the things that you guys post, especially the millennium things. Like, for instance, I'm 29, so I'm almost to that 30 mark. And that's, I guess all these jokes is going to be about me, very, very, very shortly. Right. And 6 months from now, what was the idea or, how did you guys exactly start taking off? Was it a certain post that went viral?
No, when the pandemic hit in, March of 2020, I feel like everyone was kind of stuck inside all of a sudden. And I hate to kind of say that that's what really sparked our growth, but I think that's when it really started growing really quickly,
Totally.
And just kind of, when we were in the middle of the pandemic, like people really wanted something to relate to and like wanted to have that sense of community. And I think that's kind of like to believe that's like kind of what we were providing. And I think that's what kind of really led to the exponential growth of our account. Yeah.
I also think, and not to get too dark here, but I think 2020 was just like, it was the apocalypse outside. So it was this, we didn't know what the present was, didn't know what the future was going to be. So I think a lot of us did kind of like find comfort in the past and those fun, nostalgic comfort moments and so we started doing stories stuff like cast your 90s family, like who would be your dad, Robin Williams or Rick Moranis or things like that. And it was just these fun, engaging, distracting kind of things that kind of brought some comfort, laughs. And I think that really, really resonated with a lot of people.
I think it did, looking at, first of all, I was introduced to you guys by Denise from Monday Cinema Club. She had told me, you ever heard of these people? And I'm like, I haven't. But then again, it's it's Instagram, it's the internet. Like, we're not going to all hear about each other.
And you're 29. You're not in the club yet, Frack.
I'm basically not invited. You're saying, right?
You're invited, honorary 30-year-old.
I'm just invited to observe, but once I hit 30, then I can start, feeling and relating, right?
Hangovers get a lot worse, and your knees click a bit more, but.
I can't wait. So let's go ahead and take it all the way back. And I'm talking about, let's go back to, straight 90s. You guys remember that decade by chance?
I remember it pretty well.
Yeah.
Talk about it every day, all day.
See, so this is going to go really, really good and nice and smooth, right? I want to talk about your experience of growing up in the 90s, whether you were a baby, whether you were whatever. Let's just talk about the 90s for a bit. Chloe, talk about, just the 90s, beginning early 90s. What were you doing? Were you talking yet?
I was 5 when the 90s began, so wow. I guess I was talking, but I was like you're not asking me to go deep into my childhood trauma.
No, I am actually.
But, are you? Okay, I can go there. I'm like an open book. No, but I was a very, very shy child, like really shy, would not talk in class, like would have trouble making friends. I was just so quiet. I could not speak. I don't know why. That is kind of why I really love the late 90s. I feel like I have better memories from the late 90s. I don't know why. I mean, yeah, again, maybe that's like part of it. But I really like this for me, like when the Spice Girls were coming out and like Titanic and like Leo DiCaprio, like that. I have such fond memories. And like, my plastered wall with all these Bop magazine pinups, like, it was just a good time. Simple time. It was a simple time. And I think that's what I miss. Like before, the internet really blew up, before social media, before things just got so crazy. Now there are so many, like, not to sound like a boomer, but like so many devices and like, I cannot keep up. I need things to be simple. So, I miss the 90s. It's just, I really just wish there were, it was like the movie theater or like Blockbuster where you go, you had 10 options and you pick one of the 10 options.
You only had this much money.
Yeah. $3 I can get, one VHS tape to rent.
Popcorn.
Yeah, I have a giant bag of popcorn. But yeah, things are just out of hand.
Better times that I can do is when, I'm away from social media. I tell people, if you got a problem, don't call me, for a little bit, I'm going to be out of touch. And one of those ways for me, by the way, is going to see 90s bands live in concert. I just saw the Backstreet Boys for the 5th time. And I'm telling you, being with the Frackers and being with all these different people, meeting all these people, including the Backstreet Boys, like it just felt like simpler times for me. Yeah. Nobody was, at least in my group, no one was on their phones. We were all just sitting in a circle on the lawn, just talking.
That sounds so nice. It's like nowadays you go to a concert or really anything, anywhere you go, everyone just like has their phone out and is filming this thing. And to me, I'm like, and I do the same thing. I'm being a total
me too.
I'm just like, put your phone away, live in the moment. And again, I'm the one holding up the phone. But like, but I'm like, come on, let's get back there.
Like let's like my favorite thing to sing to people is let's have a conversation.
Face to face and talk and not
just like this. I mean, we're using technology. We're being total right now. By the way, where do you guys live?
I am outside of Providence, Rhode Island. I'm like 10 minutes outside of it.
What about you, Peter?
I was one of the people who fled New York City during the pandemic and moved upstate. So I'm in the Hudson Valley, like an hour north of New York City.
That's awesome, man. I was just there a couple weeks ago, New York, but
New York's great. I miss this city, but Hudson Valley's insane. Like it's a good place to be. So
that's incredible, man. All right, Mr. Peter, you tell me what everything we just talked about. You give your input with this.
So I was born in '87, and I definitely relate to. It's funny when we do these, like we do a lot of like bop or flop music series, and when we do like the number ones of 1998, like I have a big connection to it, but the number ones of 93, I'm like, I don't know if I've heard these. But I grew up in like a log cabin on the top of a mountain in Colorado. We didn't have a TV because my parents thought it like stunted creativity. So I was like pop culture obsessed, and would like, at some point we got a computer, so I would like print off friends' scripts and like force my friends to act them out because I couldn't watch the actual show. Or like I did chores at my grandparents' house to watch their TV on the weekends, and like I owned 3 movies. It's like Romeo and Michelle's High School Reunion, Beautician and the Beast, and maybe it was just those 2. And we watched those every single weekend for years, and I had them memorized. So it was like this. I loved pop culture, but I didn't have full access to it like a lot of my friends did. I remember season 1 of American Idol, like I would listen to it my friend's phone, like she would call and hold the phone up to the TV. So I was pop culture obsessed, but didn't have a ton of access to it. And then once we finally like fully got internet connected and everything, I dove in deep. So that's kind of me in the 90s. And I feel like the toys in the 90s I was super into. Like the Beanie Babies, the Pogs, like Game Boys, any of those fads, like fully jumped right in. GAC.
And it's really crazy if you think about it, because, see, I was born in 92. It's so weird how you just said how you remember everything about the 98, but like my memory begins in like 97 and 98. Before that, no memory, recollection of anything I've done. There's videos, so I was definitely born in a baby. There's proof. But 97 and 98 for me too, man. Like 90 especially. I mean, that's when everything started emerging. That's when music just took a turn, you know, which, you know, I tell everybody all the time, like music every few years, right? You know, for 5 years, it's rap. Rap is a big thing. You know, the next 5-7 years, pop is the biggest thing. And it evolves and it changes, and I don't know why, but it's like, it's what we need in that time. It seems like it used to be, I should say. I don't listen to the radio anymore. I've given up on the radio hits today. But let's go back to, especially the early 2000s on this part, you know, listening to the radio. What exactly were you guys listening to?
God, I loved the radio, and there was so much that the radio did that kind of built this community. Like I was in Colorado, and the station was 93.3, and it was this. I love that I still remember that. Wow. But there were so many contests and different, like, calling in for specific reasons and making up issues to talk to their advice person. And then I remember winning tickets to like Green Day and Blink-182, and it was always really like great seats, and you'd get to go right up to the front. And that like was my high school experience. Yeah. And I kind of hate that I abandoned radio so quickly. Like my mom, I grew up listening to my mom on NPR. I interned at a radio station in college. Like I was all about it. And then one day was just like, never again. Like I can't listen to commercials anymore. Streaming all the way. But radio was everything. I mean, that was such a community. It was so cool.
It was weird because before, you know, like growing up, all of us, all we knew was commercials, right? Like, I mean, the generation or 2 generations now, I guess you could say, they don't know commercials. You know, like they go on Hulu and they're like, is this the ad plan? Why don't you have the ad-free plan? Who wants to see a commercial about Dawn and dish soap? I don't know, like radio, man. Radio is a huge part of my life. It was literally what, you know, helped me or made me purchase, you know, CDs or discover artists. You know, but nowadays we have a little thing called the internet, and it's a lot of trouble, but man, is it easy to find out, you know, just type in 4 lyrics and hit lyrics, and it just shows you what song you're talking about. I mean, of course we have Shazam, but who uses Shazam? That was a fad, you know, years and years ago. But Chloe, what about you?
I listened to a lot of Radio Disney. I don't know if you remember
Oh,
that. I mean, that's a throwback.
of course.
Yeah. Love Radio Disney, obviously. And
Yeah.
then I'm from Boston, so we were listening to Kiss 108, and there was like, like the Kiss concert. I feel like every big city has a version of the Kiss concert where like all the pop stars go and perform. And every year my mother would, schlep us all the way out to like Western Mass to go see it. And like Britney was there, all the big acts, all the boy bands, every boy band.
Wow.
That was so fun. But and like Peter said, like all the contests, when they're like first caller, 10th caller gets this, and me and my sister would, each like be on a different like
that like adrenaline in those moments.
Yeah.
I'm on a 10th caller.
Yeah.
I never won any of those, by the way.
Really?
Never won a single one. Nope.
It's not too late. I mean, I'm sure they still do radio contests if you want to get back into it, but
I don't know. Do they?
We can role play one with you later.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. we can totally fake it.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny because I remember, maybe you guys remember this too, but on AOL, you guys remember AOL, right? But you got mail, nowadays kids are like, no. But anyway, so I remember on AOL, there was this guy, there was a DJ. I don't remember his last name or his name. I think maybe like DJ Craddock or DJ something, but he was all about like showcasing like all like Jonas Brothers and different things like that. I used to listen to him. I was so dedicated to him. And the only thing I ever wanted in my life was him accepting my call on air. And that brings me back. Wow, dude, I was like 10 or 11 years old. And it was the weirdest thing. I looked him up the other day just to see what he's up to. And it's like, he's no longer doing any radio. And I was just like, but that was like the voice, that I remember growing up because I would listen to him so much. But yeah, you guys are absolutely right. There was so many different contests. I may have not won any, but was there a particular favorite contest that you guys actually did win?
Gosh, I remember there being one, and I remember being on air and screaming. My sister and I were just screaming so loud. Like, I feel so bad for the DJ for having to listen. I don't remember what it was, but I just remember the shrieking. That's it.
Wow.
I feel like for me there were two different phases of those contests. So there was the like Radio Disney one where it was the call in and you win like a copy of Matilda or something, which happened.
I remember that.
And I still remember. And then there was the one like once we got into high school, it was like a lot of in-person stuff, and you'd have to go to some parking lot, and there were different contests and things. And if you and that was where we won like concert tickets, and those were I think Blink 182, and we got like front row or whatever that standing area was at concerts then.
Wow.
But got tickets to that. And that was, I mean, as a 17-year-old, that was just like winning the lottery. That was huge.
I didn't get to see Blink 182 until about 4 years ago, man. As a child, I didn't go to concerts. My very first concert was when I was 20.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that was New Kids on the Block, Nelly, and TLC.
Nice. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one to start off.
That is an absolute. I mean, that was the best one only because it was my first one, and then from then on, I've seen, me and my girlfriend and myself. We've seen all the greats. We've seen all the legends. We've seen so many concerts. I need to really update my list, but my list is literally like this. I mean, it's in just 6 years of being together. We've seen, and because of COVID, of course, that kind of slowed down, but we're definitely looking forward to, seeing more together. But as a child, I didn't really have those of course, I live in this city an hour and 30 minutes from New Orleans. Nice. So no one comes here. So, but it's, but also even back then, a lot of people didn't go to New Orleans. There was a lot of country people who would come, and it kind of is the same now, the same way. But, and you guys, I mean, you were much closer to bigger cities, and, and I get so jealous, and people's like, yeah, I live 5 minutes away from my amphitheater. and Backstreet Boys is playing tomorrow night, and I'm like, man.
I got to work at Red Rocks all through high school. I did like the concession stands there because that's like right near my house.
Wow.
And that was, and I think I completely took it for granted back then.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know Red Rocks?
Yeah,
it's iconic.
Yeah, I sure do.
I saw like every concert there for 4
it's very
or 5
well
years.
known, man.
Yeah, I usually arrogantly just look, oh, it's you Red Rocks. So that some people don't know what I'm talking about, but
I love researching concert pavilions and such, though, man. So
it's so cool. No, concerts are great.
Early 2000s, you guys were probably in junior high.
I graduated high school in 2005, and you were 2004?
I was 2004, yeah.
Okay, wow. See, in 2000, I can always remember this, but in 2002, I was in second grade. So
you're a baby, and I'm jealous.
I'm jealous because you're over 30, and you're part of this group, and but I want to talk about something else. Is movie theaters, man. Movie theaters being in the 90s, and we're going to do a comparison about today's movie theaters. But what was your experience as a kid and as a teenager going to cinemas with your friends? The your favorite kind of food to eat. We all love those M&Ms and Reese's. But yeah, tell us about kind of. Let's dive into movie theaters because that's a huge part of my life.
I'll start. Okay. When you brought up all that food, I will not tell a lie. I love movie theater nachos. Like the disgusting cheese that like comes in like a bag that you can like see the people behind the counter like squirting out into the box. Like, I'm sorry. It's so delicious. I'm sorry. No. It is so good. That's my fondest memory of movie theaters.
We're gonna get canceled now, Chloe. We're gonna get canceled now. That's just.
Are we?
No.
It's pretty easy to for that to happen nowadays, especially over canned and nacho stuff.
There is a lot of movie theater food though that's like objectively bad food that has those like nostalgic ties that make it great. Like I was talking to someone the other day about those pretzels that have like that amount of salt on it that no human should eat. Like who decided to put that much salt on a soft pretzel? But I loved it. And it's awful, but it was so good because it meant so much as a kid at the movie theater, which was such a huge like outing and event,
I haven't thought about those pretzels and
disgusting.
I mean, were they though?
No, I mean just great disgusting. And that little the little cardboard box that had everything you needed, like the little cup that was plastic you could take home, so it was like a toy, and then it had the nerds and the popcorn. That is a meal. I mean, that's incredible.
So good.
I'd still eat that.
And now it's just more like a snack. You're like, I'll take 3 of those.
Yeah.
I remember that. So growing up, I used to go to, I still do, but it's called Lake Cinema. It's a movie theater that started in the 60s. And I remember going get a kid's combo, which was a drink, a pack of nerds, and a choice of hot dog or nachos. And it was $3.75 when I was a kid. $3, guys. I know people are like, there's no way. $3.75.
And I bet that even then people were complaining about how expensive that was.
I was a kid. I was just eating food.
Yeah.
But I can imagine. Yeah, I mean, nowadays, man, you guys, we go to AMC and it's like, how much is a popcorn? And 18, actually, no, I'm sorry. I went to a Regal recently and it was $16.75 for a popcorn.
That's for a super, like a large one, or was that like a tiny little individual?
I hate to disappoint you. This is when I went to see Dear Evan Hansen with Vicky. It was a bag.
That is
$16.75.
That's robbery.
And it was $12 for a drink.
That's insane. I'm all about the Alamo Draft House is the one we have here. I know
those are really, really kept up too.
They're great. And you get the whole menu, you get alcohol, And the best part for me is that they kick people out who are on their phones. Like I can't, and that was a nice thing about movies in the 90s is no one had phones with them.
Yeah.
No one was like checking a glowing screen in the middle of a movie. And now it pulls me out of the theater so quickly. Like I just lose the experience and get grumpy. So I'm into those ones where they kick people out.
Trust me.
My truth.
Trust me. I 100% agree with you. I actually built a movie theater in a house with a 120-inch screen, 12 speakers, and seats because I personally don't like paying, especially the ticket prices today. I do not like when I get pulled out the experience.
Oh yeah.
By a laser light show, by cell phones just making me think I'm being ascended to heaven because it's so bright in the room. So I really, I hate to tell you this, but I really don't like going to see movies anymore. And which is another thing, back in the day, it took 6 months, 8 months for a movie to come out. Now it takes 45 days or less to go to streaming. So I don't mind waiting.
And you're already paying for the streaming because we need that for everything else anyway. I mean, I was like that with the new Fantastic Creature, whatever the new Harry Potter movie was.
Oh, yeah.
Like, why am I going to drive somewhere and sit with a bunch of people in a room?
I waited too. I was happy I waited, by the way. Chloe, I want to hear about your theater experience. What were you going to see? What kind of movies were you going to see too?
In the 90s?
Yeah.
You know what's so weird is like I have such a crap memory, but I can remember seeing specific movies. Like I remember seeing First Wives Club in theaters with my mom and like my friend Julie. Like I remember exactly who was there. I remember seeing It Takes Two in the theaters.
Yeah.
And I remember being like grounded before then, so I wasn't able to see it like a week before. Like I just remember I have these like very specific memories.
Yeah.
Which just I must have meant that I was maybe like so in the moment and so happy to be there. But it's weird. I mean, you guys were talking about going to the theaters, and I haven't been since before COVID, since 2019. I haven't been to see a movie, and I don't know that I'm ever going to go again. I don't know that I'm ever going to go again. I don't know why. It's just not, which makes me feel sad saying that. Cause I'm like, I don't want to move away from like, that in person, like, just like being the sense of community and being with other people. Like that's kind of sad to me, but at the same time, like, I just don't want to sit in a theater, and I'd rather sit on my couch and have access to all the snacks in the fridge and my beautiful cats. Like I just I don't know. I don't need it.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. Okay, since 2020, I went to see 2 films. One being the X-Men Mutants Academy or whatever it was called. That was really and then I went and saw Doctor Strange. And after seeing Doctor Strange, I said to myself, I'm okay never coming back to a movie theater. First of all, the experience was the audio was on 18 out of 100 volume. So no one could understand the dialogue. All the effects sounded like pew pew. And the screen was just horrendous looking, like, the image itself. And I'm judging because, of course, I have a theater 10 feet away. And so it's like perfect sound, perfect audio, perfect picture. I mean, everything, all the works. So, and after watching Doctor Strange, I made the decision that I'm probably not going back to the movie theater. And that's the reason why, though. And also, of course, people are just crazy with their cell phones the entire time. And I'm blind in one eye, and I'm almost half blind in the other. So I can't see. And I tell people all the time, my good eye is my left eye. And so when you have a cell phone emitting this way, I can't see the screen at all. It's like doing this. So I don't know. To me, and like we just talked about, Peter, like everything's coming out 45 days or less. And Warner Brothers, Paramount. Now Top Gun 2 isn't going to be a 45-day release, they said. It's going to be longer, which, I mean, it's still making millions of dollars, which is, but the majority of the movies, including Disney, 45 days or less, it'll be on streaming, but this is the kind of world we live in. We talked about it earlier a little bit, but, before social media, it was all about being connected with each other, and in a whole different kind of way, but what was it like when you guys had first discovered like MySpace, ICQ, Facebook?
I feel like Facebook was just, and maybe we even had earlier access just because we both went to college in Boston, and I think they kind of rolled it out earlier in Boston.
They did. They sure did.
That was huge. I mean, that was such a fun way to connect. And I remember before I even started freshman year, I could figure out everyone who's going to be like on our floor in the dorms and like get to know people that way. Wow. And I think it was such a different experience then, because it was all, like we were saying, the way we started 30AF was really just kind of with our close friend group in mind. And that's what social media was. It wasn't this big thing to connect with everybody outside of it in a community experience. What do you think, Chloe?
Wow.
Yeah. I remember like I was so big on LiveJournal. Like I had so many different, you remember LiveJournal? Both of you? Like,
oh, I have not thought about that in decades, but I do.
Yeah, it's a throwback. But
wow.
I did like several entries a day. And now I think of like the idea of just like kind of like writing in a diary, but sharing that to the world is like, that's like, sounds like my living hell. Like I don't need anyone to know those thoughts. And I never want to see my LiveJournal again. Unfortunately, it's out here somewhere. I'm sure one day it will, pop back into my life, but I'm just like, I don't need to see that ever. But I remember that sort of fondly, sort of not. But love, hate.
Yeah. I mean, I never written any kind of LiveJournal. I was pretty much occupied watching movies. I've always been a movie freak. I kind of grew up, just loving movies and understanding and having a respect for movies back then. Nowadays, it's a different story. But, people were on even MySpace. I had a MySpace, but I was like the abnormal kid in school. I just didn't use it. I would accept your friend requests, and people was like, "Oh, put me on your top 10." You guys remember that? Your top 10? And I'm like, okay. And but like, I didn't really get involved into social media until Facebook. And that was, I don't know, just life-changing for the good and for the bad. And I remember one of my first friends was a long-lost aunt of mine. Like, hadn't talked to her in years and years and years, probably at least 10 years at that time. I hadn't even seen her. And she added me. And that was like the recognition of, okay, this is a good thing back then. Wow. Before the cyber bullies, before the keyboard warriors came into play, because I hadn't really had any of that happen because I just never looked at my MySpace messages. I should probably look at them now and see. Maybe I'll laugh. But the last thing I heard about MySpace was Justin Timberlake bought it, and I didn't hear a thing about that afterwards.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he I think it was Justin. It was one of the big. It might have been. It wasn't Jay-Z. I think it was Justin Timberlake, and this was back in like 2011, and they were going to revitalize MySpace at that time. But
didn't it become more of a music sharing platform than?
Did it?
I mean, I left MySpace way before that happened. I remember hearing about that at some point, but.
I mean, I was using MySpace until probably like 2007, I'm going to say. 2008. It was right when I was going into junior high. I mean, I know they were revitalizing it, so that would make a lot of sense, but I don't know. I'm going to have to go on it today and find out.
We had the weird thing of when we started on Facebook, you had to have a college email address to get on. Like, it was only for college students. There was a panel on the left side that was all of the schools you had friends from. And it was kind of this like, I have like 3 Harvard friends and a Stanford. Like, it was bizarre.
No way.
And then there was just this freedom to post all of the party pictures from the night before. Like, once they opened it up so you could have more than your profile picture, which was in itself a monumental experience. But
Yeah.
and then suddenly they opened it up and my grandma was on Facebook, and it was this like mad rush to delete all of these blackout memories from freshman year before and it wasn't
dear
that
old
thing
grandma
of like
sees it,
prospective employers / your grandmother / your former elementary school teacher are going to see all of this. It was
but you know, that was before you can get fired, right? You know, they would see things, and you know, I mean, nowadays, you know, I tell people all the time, especially who have good jobs, you know, I'm like, watch what you post, man. And I said, you know, there's people. I remember James Gunn. Someone found a tweet from like 6 to 8 years ago, and they pulled it up, and Disney fired him. Like something that was said, you know, something that he believed or said, you know, almost a decade ago, was used against him. And you know, I always think about that kind of stuff. Like, have I posted anything bad? But I really haven't. I don't think I have. I'm one of the very few around here who just didn't believe in sharing your problems with the world, right? Mm-hmm. You know, the way it is now, people write the most insane drama. And also a lot of, you know, that's one of the things I miss. I miss being back in the good days when you could know a person. You know, nowadays everyone goes to social media and they see this person, this image, you know, this person has created this image of herself or himself. And then you meet them and they're just nothing like they are, you know, on Facebook or you know them, of course, like it could be your family member or something. But that's one of the biggest things I miss. I really do miss the realism of being a human being. Yeah. You know, it's one of the coolest things ever because it throws me back. But you know, tell me about the toys you guys had. Favorite, you know, memories of like owning toys, and you can throw it back to the McDonald's days, you know, Burger King Backstreet days, you know.
I love my Tamagotchi like so much. I love my Tamagotchi. Yes. I love my hit clips. I don't know if you're too young for hit clips, but do you remember those?
I do. I do. Yeah.
And you know, Peter mentioned Pogs earlier for some.
Yes.
And I actually, oh my god, I have some in my drawer right now. Maybe while Peter's talking, I'll dish them out.
How do you guys have toys still?
Well, we do like a lot of fun giveaways. Yeah. Peter probably has
Baby Spice.
And let me just hold up.
You keep her on your shelf?
Oh yeah.
No,
we do these really fun things. This is a kind of tangent.
That's incredible.
Sorry, I'm interrupting your pod
show.
No,
please.
I'm the worst.
My podcast. Here,
wow.
Podcast. That is the name of our podcast, Chloe.
I was going to take it, but you can have it.
We do these things called nostalgia grabs, and it's like an envelope filled with Pogs and Dunkaroos and Tamagotchis, and we've spent an insane amount of time and money on eBay trying to find stuff to fill these with. And then we hide some ourselves and then get people from all over the world to hide them in cities. And we always hype up the city and then share the location, and the first person to find it gets to keep it. And now they're usually claimed in under 30 seconds. Like
way.
And we do several a week. They're really big, but it's kind of been this kind of reconnection with, I mean, it's just funny seeing adults traveling hours to some city to like lose their mind over getting a bag filled with Pogs.
It's like there's a Mewtwo down the street and everyone runs to it, right? Yeah.
But that's been, I mean, in some ways I feel like I'm getting more, having more fun with 90s toys now than I did as a kid. Because as a kid, it was this kind of greed factor of I just wanted stuff. And I think I got over it pretty quickly, and it was like going with the trends. And I loved my toys. Sounds very greedy, but now looking at this stuff, everything was just so colorful and goofy and fun. And people really connect with that stuff, like toys and candies. We were talking about the Spice Girls Chupa Chups the other day. I don't know if you remember those, but like, someone's selling 5 of those on eBay for $50,000 right now. I don't know if anyone has bid on that, but
I haven't. Actually, I haven't. No.
Oh, we did.
I did.
She's like, I was the only
Made an offer of $5.
We're up to $55K now.
You were like, would you consider taking 50 cents? Wow, that's incredible, man. That's a great thought that would kind of pace in my mind is taking for granted the toys and stuff we had. Because I too, I was part of that trend. Like, okay, I gotta have the Mewtwo card, I gotta have the Pikachu card, I gotta have the Blue Eyes White Dragon or Exodia cards for Yu-Gi-Oh! And I gotta get all five Backstreet Boys from Burger King. I gotta have them all, and like I said, gotta catch them all. But and what I did with them, once I was just done, just move on, find something else, and it was kind of like never enough.
And it was all just so much quantity focus. Like, I've got to have 700 Beanie Babies, but I can't play with them. I have 5,000 Pogs. I don't know how to play with them, / don't want to, because then you'll take my Pogs.
Man, you're really putting a lot of thoughts in my head about that, man. Because I remember I had to have this Jimmy Neutron remote control. It was like a motorbike, but it was like a circle, like a wheel, and like I just had to have that. It was like a lot of money. It wasn't cheap, it wasn't this $20 toy, and I just remember like getting it and playing with it like 3 days, and then it was like, all right, so what else do I need to, or what else do I gotta have?
And those things like Tickle Me Elmo, Furbies, no one wanted that. Like, how they got like high schoolers to be obsessed over an Elmo doll to the point that like people were mauling each other at Walmart over it. No one wanted that. It was just this like bizarre trend fad thing.
Wow, man. That's crazy. But you're still right. Furbies. Those are creepy, but okay, let's talk about that, Chloe.
No, they're just creepy. I mean, it's funny, I've never really owned one like for myself.
What?
But I think we had one for maybe we did a big giveaway last year. Remember, like we did like a massive giveaway with like everything you can imagine. Lisa Frank Trapper Keepers, Girl Talk, the board game.
Yes,
really everything. And I think we had a Furby, and I was just like, what is this? Like, get this out of my house. Like, so creepy.
And I remember you'd be like sleeping, and then it would start snoring, and be like, honk, whinny, 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 whinny. And then, why do I want this in my room? Like, everything was just really true, obnoxious. Like,
I remember this. This is why I didn't own them. Like, own them for long. First of all, dude, I just brought, like, as soon as you made that noise, it just like my brain. Yes, because my brain, I felt things going on in my brain. Like, dude. Oh yeah, those things are creepy.
Question, because I actually never turned one on. So then, could you turn it off, or was it like it would always make that sound every time you would sleep? Like,
I think you could turn it off, but wasn't there something that you would kind of get punished for? Like, you were neglecting your Furby if you weren't supposed to like touch its nose if it made some noise. I remember having it and playing with it for like 2 hours after begging for it for months, and then just throwing it in my closet and like never looking back.
Wow,
they were the worst.
Dude, Furbies is just outrageous though. There was always something else coming out with them, and accessories. Remember the accessories?
Yes.
I mean, it had like the cooking, the aprons and stuff for cooking, and
or the Furby. Like, you mean
yeah,
on the Furby, or it was an apron with a Furby on it?
No, it was some kind of like apron like that you put on the Furby. It was weird. But they had clothing in the beginning was like, oh, you had the red, you had the white, the black, and the pink and red, and then it got to where it was like becoming the Beanie Baby sensation, but it was Furbies. It got a little out of hand, and then they started talking to you, and I was like, oh, no, where's the off switch? It's like, whenever Pokemon had come out, we had this little device where we would have to like walk the Pokemon and do things to evolve it. It was like a little keychain. I don't know if you guys remember that little bitty thing, and it was a lot of work, like as a child, and you had to. I think it maybe counted steps or something, but I remember you had to do a lot, and eventually it was start evolving and everything and getting levels. That was probably like 1999, 99, maybe 2000. But, I had so many different favorite toys though, man, but One of my favorites was always electronics, though. Laptops. I mean, you had the laptops that they had the games like the ABC laptops, and it was all kid games on it. It wasn't really a laptop, but you were the coolest kid on the block if you had one.
It was like it was like iPads, but back then.
Yeah,
basically.
It was just so simple and so slow. That's one of the things that I do wish today, and that's gonna be the last question I want to ask you guys. What are 3 things that you wish that you can bring back from the 90s?
Gas prices.
I'm all about that.
I do think that I think we can often look back on the 90s as being this like blessed period that we don't have now. I do think that there's so much progress that's happened since then. Oh, yeah. Like we did our Pride Month trivia and we're looking for Pride related questions from the 90s, and it was dark. Like there was a lot of darkness from that period that we kind of gloss over and focus on the Furbies and the happiness and the Nickelodeon. But maybe like I'd love to keep a lot of what's happened since then, because I think there's a lot of good. But then I think kind of that community that we talked about, I feel like there was just this kind of like people liked people more back then. And we could sit in a movie theater and ignore someone talking in the corner, whereas now I'm just like, shut up! Like there's just that, like the community, gas prices, and let's bring back Pogs. What about you, Chloe?
Oh God, that was such a good answer. And mine is like, I'm like thinking while you're talking, I'm like, well, the Spice Girls with Jerry. And I'm like, oh gosh. But that is my truth. The Spice Girls with Jerry is like number 1.
Man.
I have to say, like we were kind of briefly talking about like technology and everything, and like I love the computer games of the 90s, like Roller Coaster Tycoon and SimCity and
Putt.
I don't know Putt.
Freddy Fish.
Freddy
Spy
Fish.
Fox.
Freddy Fish. What is Freddy Fish?
Peanut butter and jellyfish sandwiches.
Yes. The coral reef, bro. We're gonna go to the coral reef. Chloe's like, what is?
No, I feel I'm like, I need to know that. I'm gonna do some Googling after and look into this because maybe I know it.
Okay, Putt goes to the moon. Like
I just know that name. I'm gonna Google this.
You do, because you would be like, Caleb. That was one of my favorite games ever. Well, maybe not. But
did you play
it on?
PC. Yep.
Oh, 90s.
So there was Putt. There was Freddy Fish
Putt, the
and
purple
Spy
car.
Fox. Yes.
Yeah, I remember Putt. Did you do a Logical Journey of the Zoombinis? That was a movement.
Really?
Beanies.
It was great.
Yeah.
There was this like,
what is it?
It was like a logic. You're like these little blue blobs, and you would have to like solve puzzles to get to some magical land. And the puzzles were like logic things, but there'd be like a tree that was very particular about what toppings he wanted on a pizza. You'd like have to make a pizza for this tree. It was like pretty verbally abusive. It was a great game.
It was really good. I miss that one.
How did I miss this? Well, I was too busy playing Putt, obviously.
Right.
I think this was probably like the late 90s. Like maybe Zoombinis came out in like 99. So you were probably pretty, I mean, not just.
I was playing Putt.
You were playing Putt.
Literally, at that time, like, I don't know who the studio makers are, but I know they made Putt, Freddy Fish, Spy Fox, and like one other deal. But I don't know why I don't know this one. Well, yeah.
It was a good one, and I do have to say this is humiliating that I know this, but you can buy it for like $5 on Steam. I don't know if you have Steam to play.
Yeah, I do. I'll actually buy it like right after this.
Logical Journey of the Zoombinis. If you just type Zoombinis, it will come up.
All right. Well, I'm definitely going to buy it after and take a screenshot and show you guys. I'm playing it after all these years. I'm finally playing it, which means you got to buy Putt, by the way.
I am buying Putt.
Or just go to YouTube and watch it. But like, you know what? I think they re-released them on PC. It's probably on Steam.
A lot of these games you can also. I mean, I don't know about Putt, but like you can just like if you Google it, like there are websites like I don't know if you remember Lemmings, like you can play that online now, and like they have the entire game. A lot of these games are on there. Just a fun little.
I'd probably break down and cry. Like, you know, that is
fair.
When I tell you, you know, I love my boy bands, I love my girl bands, I love my music and movies, but Putt Putt and Freddie Fish and Spy Fox, that would bring me down to like, that would bring me to my child body all over again. Because it's been decades. I could say it now, decades since I've played this.
What do you think you'd remember? Like, do you think it would just come back to you instantly? Like, that's what happened.
I can tell you,
like,
I can tell you piece by piece of everything that happened. Still, I remember everything.
You need to play it. This like has to happen. Like,
man, I'm about to do a live stream, right?
I would watch that.
Thank you. That's at least one viewer there. There you go. I got 2. Look, guys, you know, this has been incredible. We're already an hour in.
Oh wow, that was time flies when you're having fun.
That went so quickly.
But look, guys, you know, it's been an absolute pleasure having you guys on the show.
It's been great.
I'd love to invite you guys for our part 6, part 8, part 10. Truthfully, there's just not enough time to discuss this. There never is. We've talked about 4 different things when there's a billion different things. Like, you know, we didn't talk about, you know, our schooling days. You know, and what we did as kids, you know, on the outside, you know, playing outside, but we'll get to that eventually.
Yeah. Anytime, we're here. This was really fun.
Yeah, man. Thank you guys so much for coming on. Thank you, Chloe. Thank you, Peter. It's great having you guys. Great meeting you guys face to face. You know,
absolutely.
This is the Frack and Friend Show. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.